do think there was some kind of cabal going on.
Oh,
I think that
God.
all these things are interplaying together. Okay, everybody is clicked up with everybody to create these things that happen. I'm not gonna hold you. I do believe that because it's just the way the pieces fit together. It's no coincidence. Okay, there's no way that it is a coincidence to me that we have,
the 1% is a cabal. The 1% is a cabal.
I'll give you an example, right? When we talk about like age of consent and things like this also ties into this whole conversation about wanting children to be able to become trans or to be able to change their gender or get these surgeries or get these pills and things like that.
We get into a whole different conversation.
But it works. It works though. It works within.
Because if you tell me that a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old knows that they want to be the opposite gender and they should be allowed to get on once they start getting that age where they hit puberty, that they're able to make that decision for themselves about their body, that they're able to say, oh, I know for a fact this, that, and the third, and make these choices about getting on puberty blockers, things that are going to affect you long term. Surgeries. If you're going to tell me that they know that much about themselves and they are so mature, what's the next step? Oh, they're mature enough for us to sleep with them. They're mature enough for us to do this, that, and the third with them. That is the next step to that. Okay, all these things work together to create this image of children that is no longer childlike. Okay, look at the middle schoolers that you went to school with and look at the middle schoolers that you see now. Half of them look my age. They look the same age as me just because of how they're dressing or the type of makeup that they're doing. All these different things are working together to make children seem or be viewed as older or more mature than what they actually are. It is all working together because once you establish that a child is grown enough to know that they're this opposite sex and that they should be able to make the choice to get on puberty blockers or to get mastectomies or whatever it is. Once you make that argument, you then open the door for, hey, they're mature enough to know that they want to be in a relationship with somebody that's 40 and they're 13. Once you make that argument, it's going to move in that direction. Like I said, all of this is pushing the envelope of what we're willing to accept. And once you accept one thing, then people will make that logical argument, because that is a logical argument. Hey, if they can do this, then they know themselves well enough. So yeah, they know that they want to be with this older person. So how are you going to tell them that they can't be?
Oh no, he said, all right. I gotta hear this. I need to hear this. Real quick. Yeah.
I didn't think we would be here.
That's why I kind of shut the fuck up because I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, it's taking a turn.
Who's gonna be here? Oh
hey,
no,
if I need to reel it back, just let me know. If I need to reel it back, I'll
how about we do this? I'll say, how about we read some comments and see what the comments are saying? How about we read some comments?
I'm not gonna lie. What Rasta said made me die laughing. This man said, so if I tell motherfuckers to breathe, is that me influencing them to breathe, or is that something they were going to do already?
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, that's not a bad take.
That's not a bad take. I agree.
Sandra, when you were 5, you didn't feel like weren't you comfortable with identifying with anything that relates to being a girl when you were 5?
Not necessarily.
You didn't. Like, so if your parents put you in like football, in baggy boyish clothes that you see all the boys wearing and they called you Sam, well, that's a girl's name too, a male name, wouldn't you be like, this feels a little weird?
Well, the baggy clothes thing, no, because I was a little tomboy. Okay,
so you were a tomboy, but you understand what I'm saying.
See, the thing is, at least the way I grew up, not everything was fucking gendered, right? Like, if I wanted to play with a monster truck, my parents were going to be like, she must be a boy because she likes monster trucks. I agree with that. It was just like, this little girl likes monster trucks. There
was still an understanding that you understood that there was a difference in how you were interested in things and boys were interested in things, right? Or the way they look, the way they present themselves, the things that they like, the things that they say, the people they play with. Are you going to sit here and say that they're at 5?
No, I'm saying that yes, there are things that are within our society that are inherently gendered, right? Like, it wasn't common to see boys walking around in dresses when I was growing up.
Oh, right. So did you walking around in dresses and heels and wigs?
Wait, you said Logics or Watts?
You, Logics.
No, I didn't. So what I'm
Okay.
that's but my point
Okay.
is, so you agree that we do notice those differences. So kids that recognize those differences at that age, they're not saying change my body parts. They're just saying something's wrong. That's all they can articulate most of the times if it manifests itself at that age. They're not saying let's put me on hormone blockers, mommy. They're just recognizing something's wrong, and they may not have the language to address it. But
So the
they can
parents are just
address
going to do
They
it?
can- No, they don't just do it. They have to go to months of therapy. They have to go to month of seeing doctors. They have to be diagnosed by more than one doctor before anything happens physically. At most, they're just going to call them a different name. And if it persists, if there's persistence, insistence, and consistence for, I believe, 6 months, then they start taking the appropriate steps to whatever needs to be addressed that'll make them feel comfortable with themselves. Because if you do not want these people to end their lives, statistically, it's best to address the issue and not just pretend like it does not exist.
And can I say something
Wait,
real quick? Because I
address
mean,
it.
hold on. Let me just. I'm just trying to wrap my mind. I might ask a few questions here. Should I also believe those doctors when they tell my kids that they should get their dicks cut off? Should I trust those doctors when they diagnose my kids with leukemia when they only had pop rashes or some shit? Because doctors always misdiagnose. People aren't smart enough. They get into careers they really don't care about. I know plenty of therapists who only got into the because they didn't have any other choice. They couldn't get into the other field that they wanted to get into. Like I said, where we start to let people dictate what's right and wrong for us versus letting us feel it for real, and we can't understand what a 5-year-old feels gender-wise or sexually, then again, like Sandra said, we are allowing things to be opened up, those Pandora boxes to be opened up, the exact same Pandora boxes that we have opened up with music, movies, TVs, ideologies, religion, and now we can't close them. We can't close them boxes because they're too big. The door's too wide open. And that's all I'm saying. I don't trust doctors. I don't trust lawyers. I don't trust people in professions just because they go to a school and they want, because those people have their own ideologies.
Wait,
As we mentioned a minute ago, those people, everybody in here has their own compass. So some doctors who pump these ass cheeks full of women knowing they look horrible, they still do it because it makes them money. Or put these fake ass implants in people's faces knowing it looks bad and it's bad for you, but they continue to do it because it makes them money. So all I'm saying is, I can't understand what you're saying.
Do you think that's the norm of doctors making those type of mistakes? Is that the standard?
I think that's the standard we have.
So how
I think
are
that's the
we all
standard
not
we have.
dead? Why don't people die?
I haven't been to the doctor in 12 years.
That's fine, but
I'm trying to get like you.
listen, I'm not talking about you may adhere to this. I'm saying
I know a lot of people that I know a lot. We have sick conscious people.
No,
we have sick conscious people.
Why are we pretending like doctors just kill people left and right?
No, doctors don't kill people. They keep them alive so they can keep feeding them drugs that make them money. So they don't want to kill them.
No, they
just want to keep feeding them pills.
Oh my God! I don't know.
I'm glad that you brought that up because, like I said, this everything. I'm sorry, Watts. I need to get this one thing off.
All right, babe. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you tuning in.
With what you just said about keeping them on drugs. See, this is what I mean by everything working together. You know the reason why they push for, you to accept this trans ideology and things like that, and then also push it on children. Why? Because they want perpetual customers. Once you start,
do you think trans people exist?
Hold on. I'll address that in a second. Once you start getting them having these surgeries, guess what? Now Big Pharma has a forever customer, right? They're either going to have a customer because you're always going to have to buy the hormones for them, or once they get off the hormones and they're depressed, guess what? You have another customer because they're depressed, or maybe they might even be on the hormones and be depressed. So it's all about funneling these children into that lifestyle where they're already taking drugs for X, Y, and Z when there really wasn't a problem there to begin with. Now, to address your question of do trans people exist, I think that yes, people can suffer from gender dysphoria. Absolutely, somebody can suffer from gender dysphoria. That is a mental health crisis, okay? That is not a normal occurrence. It is not normal. We shouldn't view it as normal. We should view it with empathy. I can understand somebody going through something where they feel like they're uncomfortable in their body. They feel like they're this, that, and the third. That is a mental health crisis. What I don't like is people getting on here and taking advantage of people going through a mental health crisis rather than dealing with it as such as a mental health issue. They're saying, oh yeah, go do this, go do that, get on the hormones, chop your dick off, do all these different things, take these drugs, not thinking about the person themselves. They're more so, I want to feel good about hyping up or being an ally, but really, you're just setting these people up to continue to be exploited. Their mental health is being exploited for the gain of big pharma, for the gain of fucking left wing or, you know, influencers that want to seem like they give a damn, but are they going to be there for that person when they want to detransition and then they're going through all these different issues after they've been coaxed into this lifestyle? Are you going to be there for them? No, you're going to pretend like they don't exist and say, well, that rarely happens. So it's just like, it's a whole system that is working together to exploit people. And unfortunately, it happens to happen to the people that are the most vulnerable. Children and the mentally ill and the elderly. Okay, so you know, I hate to be the one with the tin hat hat on, but a lot of these things are happening for very specific reasons, and they are working in lockstep together to fuck us all and to get us perpetual customers, perpetual victims, perpetually sick. Okay, I don't think a lot of these different organizations and people have folks' best interest at heart, because if they did, we would have a lot more honesty. Okay, we would have a lot more transparency.
I have a couple of questions. First question: how often do you guys think that children are going through the change? Because I don't think it happens as often as you think.
To me, it doesn't matter. The moment it's one child being funneled into that system, it's already a problem. Look at Jazzy. I believe that's the name, Jazzy. This child had their life on display.
Wait. Was it I Am Jazz?
Yeah, I forgot her last name.
I believe had a whole TV show where the whole focus of it was this little boy is transitioning into a little girl. Let's look at her life. And guess what? Fast forward, this child is now grown up, cannot achieve an orgasm, is having struggle with their relationships, is going through, depression and all these different things, because guess what? That child was being exploited by everyone in their life, all under the guise of, look, we're so accepting of our child. We're so accepting. But were they really looking out for the child's
you say that.
No.
You say that, but she very well still would prefer to be the type of person that they are currently, though.
And for every detransitioner person is not satisfied, there's people that do. So are we ignoring the people that are happy?
Right.
See, here's my thing. I don't have an issue, and I want to make this very clear. I don't have an issue with grown folks making those choices for themselves. I could care less. But my issue is when you target children while they're developing and you try to convince them that they have these different things going on, when sometimes it's just puberty. People feel weird during puberty.
That's not what's normally happened. They're not targeting anybody. The children have an issue, and then they try to address it. When you said you agree that trans people exist and you believe in gender dysphoria, do you think gender dysphoria pops up at 18 only?
That's not what I'm saying. Just because you're dealing with a mental health crisis as a child doesn't mean that we need to medically intervene on you.
That's not normal. That's not happening. That's not happening.
There's a difference between allowing your child to dress a certain way or wear their hair a certain way, because guess what? Those things can be easily changed, right? If they change their mind, they still have the opportunity to change their mind and not have long life issues from it. So there's a difference. Once you start allowing children to get on hormone blockers, allowing children to basically, because a lot of those hormone blockers, what they do is they basically make you infertile. They sterilize you. So you're allowing these children to make the decision to sterilize themselves. And yes, this is something that has already been proven. Those countries over in the UK are already changing their laws because of that. They've done the studies. But for some reason, America wants to continue exploiting children in this way.
Okay, so you know that the regret rate for trans people is like less than 1%, right?
And you do know that some people will pretend like they are okay with something just to save face. So I don't.
But you can't really measure that though.
Exactly. You can't. Exactly. So that's why I'm not going to take your statistic as face value.
But what can we take it off
because
of?
we have situations where people will get themselves into some shit, and rather than acknowledging that and taking that L, they will continue to go down that path. We even have a title for it. It's called sunken.
Your being, your existence.
It's called sunken cost fallacy. Look it up.
Hold on.
It's called
sunken cost fallacy is real. And let's keep it a buck here, because I agree with both. I agree with what you just said, Lodges and Wax, right? You said 1%, right? Have less than 1% have reported, right, that they are unhappy. So let's talk about the other number. Over the last 5 years, there has been hand over fist, year over year, there has been a 283% rise in transgender or gender dysphoria surgeries happened from the age 6 to 17.
You said 283%.
283. Hold on, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. 283% year over year since 2020, well, technically 2017. And there has been over from the age, of children between 6 and 17, from the age of 6 to 17. These are statistics.
They what?
These kids are having surgeries. Whether it's
kids are not having surgery under 18.
I'm looking at it.
Surgery or what is it?
It says of the 3,678 patients between the age of 12 and 18 had breast or chest procedures. Another 405.
Says 6.
Well, I'm just looking at the numbers they're showing me here. That's all I'm saying. I'm just reading this paragraph.
No, you said age 6, but now you said the age 12.
Right, listen to what I can go back up here and I can mention it again. Hold on 1 second. You said 1% have reported regret. Less than 1%. So you mean to tell me that they're going back and asking every one of these children that they have done this surgery on 12 months after having this surgery? Hey, do you regret having this now? No, we're not getting true. We're not getting true. But listen what I'm saying. We're not getting true statistics regardless whether
there's only I don't even know if there's 5,000 people having surgery in this country to this day. Like the number is so low.
I just told you that 3,000 of them had surgery back in, I think it was 2022. No, yeah, 2022.
If you're just talking about a mastectomy, that is so like inconsequential.
That's surgery, bro.
That is inconsequential.
It is. It's very much so.
Hold up. You talking about mastectomy is inconsequential?
Yes, because if they got it, they probably wanted it and don't care.
Hold up. As a mother,
if they got it, they probably wanted it and didn't care.
As a mother who breastfeeds her child, mastectomy, it does matter, okay? Because
but if they don't want to breastfeed, it doesn't matter.
Hold up. What if they change their mind?
They probably not. And if they,
you can't say they probably not.
Wait, do you know that? Okay. And then guess what? Okay. We're gonna talk about changing minds.
If this child is coaxed into removing that breast tissue as a child, and then they change their mind as an adult, and then they get into a relationship and they decide to have children, guess what? Breastfeeding is now off the table. And see, that's the part that I have an issue with. I want people to, as they come into adulthood, have all the options that they possibly can have. We should not be taking away these options as children. Now, if your grown ass wants to get a mastectomy, by all means, go do that. But as a child, you should not walk into adulthood with all these factors against you and not having the opportunity to change your mind. People should have the opportunity to change their mind, especially as their child going into adulthood.
So is the trade-off, let's just have these people be more depressed, be more likely to end their own lives. Is that the trade-off for keeping your breast or not being on hormone blockers?
No one can answer that question. No one can answer that question.
Statistically, that's what's happening. The only reason people have hormone block. Wait, hold on. I got you, Sandra. The only people who are having hormone blockers, having surgery, and changing their name and the way they dress is because we come to find out right now what we know is this helps these people with their mental health and it keeps them alive longer. Are we saying everything is perfect? No, but statistically, this is what helps these people not end themselves and lose and at least get the other comorbidities to subside. What you're talking about is wait till 18. The likeliness of these people ending their own lives is higher if the issues that they have had isn't being addressed. That's what's happening in real life.
Here's where the disconnect is. Here's where the disconnect is. Because you're saying, it's either one or the other. I personally believe that when you deal with a child that is having a mental health crisis, you have to deal with it from a psychological and therapeutic manner. You can't hold up. You can't just say, let's just give them surgeries and everything will be fine.
That's not what's happening.
That's not what happened.
My point of what I'm saying is, it's not just, oh, well, you can't do this, get over it. No, there has to be intervention, but I feel like those interventions should not limit what they're able to do when they're an adult, if they so choose to change their mind.
That's rare.
So
that's rare.
It's okay. Look, I'm not in the business of saying it doesn't matter just because it happens to a few people. I'm not in the business of making that type of argument. For me, I don't want this happening to anyone. I want people to have those options. I don't want those options taken from anyone because, it's so easy to say, well, it's just happening to this small group of people. But guess what? If you're part of that group that is the small group and it's happening to you, it's going to seem like it's your entire world, because it is at that point. So I'm not going to sit over here and just say it doesn't matter because it's just a few people. Oh, it doesn't matter. They cut off her breast tissue when she was a child. Now she's an adult and she don't like it. Her lived experience doesn't matter because look at all these people that are okay with it. I'm not going to do that because morally, I can't. Morally, I just cannot do that. I'm going to look at it as a situation where, what can we do for these people as their children to help them get through and grow and really fully understand themselves before they become adults and then they make these decisions that are going to affect them for the rest of their life? And now, Nicole, I see you said something about some Similac. Look, as a mom who has breastfed both of her kids, okay, there is a level of connection. Okay, there is a level of connection that you get when you are breastfeeding your child. Not every mother likes it or anything like that, but like I said,
not every mother can do it.
Not every mother can do it. Yes, I agree. But it's like having that option. You should have that option going into adulthood. If you,
all right.
I feel you.
Hold on, Watts got something to say. Watts been holding his finger up for a minute.